Welcome to the Grow Show with
Dr. Glenn,
and Keishelle. This is episode
11. Wow.
11. We are getting there.
Yes, man.
And today our topic is really a good one because it's one of my favorite topics, and it's really asking you the question. And I was having this conversation around vision. So we look at the evolved framework. If you've been following along, you know that this season is called Evolved. Evolved, right? And we were going through every letter of the Evolved framework until now we are at V. And V in Evolved, the second V. What was the first V?
Value.
You should know it.
I'll tell you about doing that.
Value-driven decisions. That was the first V.
All right.
The second V is vision-led living.
Yes.
Living with a vision. Most people really aren't lacking ambition.
No.
They're really they don't have any.
Yeah.
They're struggling with vision. They're struggling to do actions. They're struggling to achieve things that is driven by vision.
So correct that. You just say they don't have any ambition.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you say. No, you want to make sure clear you have ambition,
Yes.
but you just lack the vision.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah, make
So this episode, we're going to explore what it looks like to be vision-led and what it looks like to be vision-lost. Yes, you ready to dive in?
Let's dive in.
Love it. So one of the things that you said as we were talking about this, and I don't know if you remember that, but you said, let me see if I can find it, visionless living keeps you broke, burnout, and busy.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what about that? Why did you like that? I think it's a powerful statement, but what was it about that statement that resonated with you?
It resonates because if you don't have a vision, you don't have a plan, you don't have a goalpost as to where you're trying to go, you could be all over the place. So you could be busy, but you ain't being productive.
Yeah.
You could be busy, but you're not making the money. You could be busy, but you're not given to the relationship.
Yeah. Whenever I hear that phrase or even just talking about this vision, it reminds me of this analogy that I heard years ago. And it's you're climbing this ladder. And if you think about the concept of climbing this ladder, you're climbing it to get somewhere.
Yes.
But you're climbing this ladder, but the ladder it's leaning against the wrong wall. So you're working, you're climbing, you're doing all of these activity, you feel like you're getting somewhere, but when you get to the top, it's not where you actually but not where you want to be. And so that's really what visionless living is. What would you say is vision-led living?
So vision-led living to me is having guidance and direction that you intentionally talk about. The Bible talk about where there's no vision, the people
perish.
And also write the vision and make it plain. And we do a lot of that. We write down things and tick off and follow through.
Yeah.
So we're actually able to see the progress. And even if you don't get everything done, you actually get to see the progress.
Yeah.
As opposed to being here, there, and all over the place, but you're not seeing the progress.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And I know the professor and you may want the exact answer. But from your experience, what percentage of people do you think there is people who are living vision-led lives versus people who are living vision-less lives? What percentage are there?
So in my professor hat,
Yes.
I like to have empirical data, so I'd have to actually study that. And so I don't want to give a bogus figure, but we know based on the people that we work with and we come into contact with, when you ask them about a vision, the goals that they have, they really don't have anything concrete. And so they'll beat around the bush, or they'll say everything, but I don't have a goal or a vision that I'm working towards.
So in essence, they're busy.
Yeah.
But they don't have a clear direction as to where
Yes.
they're going.
Yeah.
And I think that leads to the real crux of what I want us to talk about today.
Before you go to the crux, even when you ask people about what's the vision for their relationship, we usually come up blank because people don't think about where do I see my relationship? Where do I see my marriage? Where do I see us in the next 3 to 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
People don't think that through.
Yeah, and it's the same for businesses. It's the same for career. A lot of persons, and they may have started with a vision, and that's the thing that I want perhaps us to bring about. People probably tend to start with a vision. Some don't, but because of life, because of certain circumstances, the vision falls off. And there are 5 signs that your vision lost, right? And I love these. You ready for these?
Let's do this.
1, reactive living.
Wow.
So constantly responding to what's urgent, loud, or expected without ever checking if it aligns with your actual goals or
Wow.
value.
That's powerful.
So you're just reactive, like, so you know, no strategy, just survival mode, right? So these are the people who wake up and let the inbox run their day. Ooh, I could relate to that sometimes.
And so that's about the burnout right there. You just reacting to everything and you don't really have a structure. And guess what? A lot of the times we end up not doing or being as productive as
Yeah,
we could be.
yeah. We may feel accomplished but not fulfilled.
Yeah.
Right? And I always, at the end of a lot of days, I'll be like, boy, I am tired, but I'm fulfilled. And that's how you know that you're not living reactive living. The second is, this is an interesting one, circumstantial living. So this is letting your current situation, limitations, or environment dictate what's possible. Now, I think this is so powerful because I feel that you could have allowed circumstantial living to happen to you. Yeah? Growing up, not being in an environment that valued education. So you could have said, okay, all of my family didn't pursue higher education. They just settled to where they were. I'm just responsible.
Yeah. And then I saw even in the neighborhood, people didn't pursue their goal or pursue education because, again, it wasn't a family thing. Their parents didn't push it. My parents certainly didn't push education. They push, turn 18, and get out my house. You see what I'm saying? And
So what allowed you to have the vision that led you to getting your degree all the way up to your doctorate?
I think I spoke about this in the earlier season. I had a neighbor. And I watched his mom. She was a domestic worker. And not just him, all of the siblings, I watch her push them to get their education. This lady didn't have an education herself,
Right.
but she pushed for her kids to have an education. And so by hanging out with them, it basically rubbed off on me.
Yeah.
I saw something that I could work towards through their families.
So because of that association or that relationship, that allowed you to have the vision
Yes.
for more in your
Yes,
life.
for their education.
Yeah.
And they were talking education. They were talking, when I get out of school, I'm applying for university. And not that they had the money and all that thing. It was already ingrained in their minds to pursue education.
Yeah.
In my house, and the thing about it, I still went to work because it was ingrained. I got out at 18 and I went to work.
Right. That was what.
Because that's what was pushing
Yeah.
in my house. However, by hanging out with them, I was able to change my mindset.
Yeah.
Because I saw that it's possible.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's circumstantial living. You could be so consumed by the circumstances
Yeah.
that you don't either see the vision or just are not exposed to what else is possible.
And then I could have also said, all of my siblings have dropped out of school.
Correct. I wanted you to say it.
They're not pursuing education.
Yeah.
You know, they go into work and dropping out of school. And so I could have accepted that as my fate.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I didn't.
And a lot of people live like that.
Yeah.
They just see that, okay, I can't go any further.
Yeah.
The third type is comparison-led living, where you're letting someone else's success story become your blueprint, even if it doesn't match your values or assignment. This is a common one. So you're building something that looks right, or even looks polished, or professional, or successful, but it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Because it's not yours.
Yeah.
I can relate to a lot of people I've worked with and coached. And I think you too, from a university standpoint, where people are pursuing degrees
See it all the time.
and they don't want a degree.
Yeah, see it all the time. I have students who come in my office and they would say, I'm like literally doing this degree to please my parents. Or my parents are gonna pay this and pay that. I had one student, she went to med school to become a doctor, and after she finished, she just was so unfulfilled because she didn't want to be a
Yeah.
doctor. Her parents wanted
Yeah.
her to be a doctor.
So you end up building a life that you don't even want,
Yeah.
right? And I think of like even if I look at my life, Glenn, a lot of people don't know this, but I dropped out of university. And people might feel as if, oh, you got pregnant, you dropped out. That's not why I dropped out. I dropped out because I didn't see my vision in align with going to university. I was always a lover of learning. If you know anything about me, I'm gonna learn. But that form of education is what I didn't see that form of education for my life. So and I could have very well stayed in because my parents said to stay in, or what society said that I should have done. And I'm like, no, I don't see that for my life.
And you didn't want to do the university education because you didn't want to do math and English and science and Spanish and all.
Because my point is, like, why am I, and Lord, I guess I'm very,
Very, very uneducated, right? No, but it's not.
why am I studying science and why am I studying physics? If the path that I see for myself, physics isn't involved. Now I get this.
It's a part of the discipline.
Yeah. Listen, I can learn discipline other places
It's a
other
part
than
of the discipline.
4 years of university.
But
forgive me,
get,
y'all. Forgive
but I
me.
get
I know
what,
I sound very ignorant.
no, it's not ignorant. I get what your point was. A formal education itself wasn't the thing that was driving you.
No.
You wanted to be this business person, this entrepreneur. You wanted to work towards something that didn't just have you and in university could have you so boxed
routine
in.
and structure.
And that worked for me because structure is my middle name.
Yeah, and that doesn't work for me because structure is not my middle name. It's actually the opposite of my middle name. So, but I mean, I'll tell you, I'm more educated than a lot of people who went to college.
Yeah, you did a lot of certification and all that stuff. So you still get the education, but not through the formal university system. So you're not advocating against education. You're just saying there are different paths to get
and do what works for the vision that you see
for yourself.
For yourself, not because my parents forcing me to do it, or because I'm gonna have this prestige. I'm going to do it. No, then you're not fulfilled.
And I wanted education, mind you. So my neighbors didn't force me. I wanted education, but my parents didn't have the money. It's not like now where the government is paying for it fully. My parents didn't have the money. I knew that I had to go to work because you're 18 now. You can't just sit up in the house. So other circumstances was dictating to me that I can't do it. But I really wanted education. And that's why it was so fascinating to me when I saw it in my neighbors.
You didn't allow circumstances to dictate. There's two other key ones. Comfort-led living. So avoiding discomfort, risk, or growth, even if you're meant for more. So you're just comfortable.
Very comfortable.
Like you ain't need to be driven by vision or led by vision because you're just comfortable. You don't want to, and you have to so you have a bit of that.
I could be comfortable. I can get comfortable. Again, it's with my structured life. I design it so I can't be stressed out and be all over the place.
You're quite comfortable.
I could be comfortable.
And you just, sometimes I'd be like, geez, just have something else to work towards.
And the thing about it, I work on things one at a time. Again, my structure, as opposed to trying to work on 4 different things at the same time. I work on things one at a time. And that's why we're night and day. I am day and you're night.
Next. Last but certainly not least, urgency-led living. So this is being led by pressure instead of purpose. So you're constantly putting out fires. You never have time to plan, to react. You move fast but never feel ahead. Right?
Everything is urgent.
Everything is urgent. And so you're not even stopping to think, is this something I even want to do? Right? And I think I can fall into that. That type of category where, like, there's something, there's always something. The difference, though, is everything that I'm doing, I feel it is a part of my purpose. So I've already filtered out all of the things that's not. I'm the type of person, I am not going to do it if it's not aligned with my purpose. Now, I'm still getting that urgency that comes with just the workload from time to time. But if it's not a part of my purpose, I don't care what you got.
And then you try to make your urgency, my former boss would say, don't make your urgency my emergency. So because you have this urgent need to do, no, that's not my emergency, so everything is not going to drop. Because I have a structure and a pace that I work by.
He's in chill mode. He's in comfort mode, you see? So those are the 5 signs that you are vision lost, like you are not allowing vision to lead you. And the question that I want you to ask yourself is, which one of these 5 types of living are sneaking in?
Yeah.
And they can sneak in from time to time.
And you could have multiple ones.
You could
at
have
a time.
multiple ones, right? I could relate to urgency-led living. Glenn could definitely be a comfort-led living type person. But it's really, it's not about just even falling into them, it's staying in there.
Yeah.
Staying there. One of the things that I know as a coach, when someone comes to me and say, Keisha, I feel stuck, or I feel stagnant, or I feel unfulfilled, the thing that automatically comes to my mind is, have you lost sight of your vision? Or let's tap back into the vision. Either you didn't
Or
have
do
it
you
in the
even
first,
have a vision in the
either
first
you didn't
place?
have it in the first place, or for some way, shape, or form, considering one of these 5, you've lost it. And before we get into, strategy of how to get back out of it, I always go back to, why are you doing this in the first place? Why did you start it? What was the reason? What is that vision? And most of the times, not all the times, but most of the times, that energy, that excitement, that drive, that passion comes back. They just need to plug into their vision. And so when we look at the evolved self, a lot of us are making decisions or not making decisions from a vision-led place. And then we're not growing, we're not becoming. What's your thought?
And then having a vision requires you to be intentional. So you have to sit down and think it through. You may have to sit down and pray it through in order to be able to determine, where do I want to be? Where do I see myself in the next year? Some people don't think that far. They just live in the moment.
Yeah, and here's what also comes up, and I can relate to this as well. We could fall under these categories not because we don't have a vision or lost sight of it. It could very well be because we've accomplished that level. We could say, okay, I've done it all. And then we don't realize, we don't stop enough to say, oh wow, I've done it all. I need to start I need to create a new vision.
Yes, because I think that's where I'm at. Like, I feel like I did so much over my career, over my lifetime, and I'm like in chill mode. Like, I'm just ready to retire.
Yeah, and I've been there too.
Pack it up and go.
Where, I could check all the things that, we big vision board people, and we'll talk about that in the next episode. But where I could check off all of the things off my vision board and my vision. So I'm like, okay, I did it, I've arrived. And then you get comfortable and then you fall into all of these types, and then you'll be like, okay, why am I feeling this way? Okay, I need to really create a new level, a new
because I think that's where my comfort zone comes from. Like, I've already achieved this. What's next? So now I have to sit back down and rethink and re-envision, and truthfully, that's not where I'm at right now. I'm in this place of, let me just enjoy the moment.
So we have the next episode, y'all, and I'm going to challenge him. We can pull his new vision out right on air. How about that? So I want to end with really looking at your life and ask yourself, do you fall into any one of those visionless or vision loss categories? If so,
vision-led or vision loss?
Vision loss. We talked about vision loss and vision, like those 5 areas, right? So let me briefly go through it. Reactive living, circumstantial living, comparison living, comfort-led living, urgency-led living. Do you fall into any of those? If yes, what are you going to do to make a shift? And then stay tuned for the next episode. We're going to dive into how to craft your vision and to live vision-led.
So until next time,
be evolved.
live evolved.